Hello everybody. I'm Tom. I'm front-end developer at CDO. I'm going to talk today about working with NPM packages, a little bit bigger perspective for developers who can contribute to the development of those packages as well. Before we get into details, let's take a bigger look at what is NPM. So NPM is the JavaScript package manager, so something that we use to distribute our JavaScript components or pieces of code or even CSS, styles, anything. It's really popular. It has 350 packages and it has more than 200 millions of downloads every day of those packages. So when you compare it to other technologies, so here are some relevant technologies for us, like Ruby, Go, or PHP, or Golang. They all are much slower developing or less active than Node. Node is the most active package management in the world, and it's developing in such speed that nothing will ever, crash it. It's basically the JavaScript is eating the world, and NPM package manager is eating all the other package managers because it's the biggest stuff, and there's a lot happening there. It's also visible when we take the pull request perspective. So this is the part of the Octoverse presentation. It shows how many, how much did per language the number of pull requests grow in the last 12 months. So you can see that JavaScript pull request in GitHub has grown by 100% almost. And it's much faster than any other technology out there. It's growing really fast. And this number, 1,600,000 pull requests in a year, transforms to more than 4,000 pull requests every day. So it's a huge number of things happening all the time. And how many of you have done any pull request, maybe not today, maybe this year even, to some Node package or some front-end library or anything that you are using?
Ember.
To Ember, for example. Okay, nice. And Dawid also did. I've heard that Maciej is also doing it. So there are a couple of people, I'm also doing it, but not everybody. And we are, I think most of us, we are using UI components, so we are consumers of it. And we all have some problems with that. And I guess it's good to be able to actually take control over it, fix it locally. And this is what I would like to talk about. So first we will start with how to find a good front-end package on NPM. And then we will learn how to modify it, and then how to create your own. Mainly to, not that I'm telling that you have to create something, but just to understand how the process of publishing NPM package works. So first, let's search for React file input. This is a component which will allow us to upload a file in React application. As you can see, Google shows many results, and the first two seem very similar. So the first sign is that often for the same problem there is more than one solution. And as you can see on the other side notes that I made, they are pretty much similar in terms of downloads and popularity. However, when you look down to the results, you can see that there is another library which actually does the same, but is called a little bit different and is like 100 times more popular. So this shows that it's not that easy to find a good front-end library, and you have to take many things into account. I would split it into 3 items. So first, when you want to find a good package, first is what is important is where you search, and then what criteria you use to compare the alternatives that you can choose from. So I prefer to search it in Google because it gives me quite wide range of options. And however, I also supplement myself with searching through GitHub repositories you can scope down to JavaScript and search there. Most packages are also that are on npm are also on GitHub. And third, I use npm page because npm page includes very important information. It includes information about how often this package is downloaded. And for me, how often the package is downloaded in the last week or last month tells much more than how many stars it has, or even if the development is active or not. Because even if the package is well written and doesn't need any changes throughout last month, so author doesn't make them, it doesn't mean that it sucks. It means the other way around. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool library because without changes it works for a long time. So the downloads tell me a lot. However, they are not enough. You have to always consider the quality and the GitHub activity. So when it comes to GitHub activity, the most important stuff is how many issues there are. So if you can see that the library has issues, especially bugs, and they are not fixed, then it means that this package might be problematic. And when we install it into our application, we will have the same problems. Unless we fix them with pull requests. However, if the author is not accepting the pull request, which is another thing, very important, that it means that probably he doesn't care about the library. And this is a big problem because if he doesn't care about the library, it's harder to push those, to get those changes back to npm repository. And finally, the quality of the code. So in frontend, it's also very important, maybe actually in the whole development process, it's really important to look into the code of the library. Because when you look, first thing that we always do, I guess everybody looks at it, is documentation of what we are installing, but there's much more. There is the source code, there are the tests. Tests are great documentation because they show you how it works. And so when we choose an npm package, it's important to not only stop on just finding the first solution, but compare it and pick the best one. Okay, now how to fix npm package. So very often we choose our library, npm package, we install it, we use it, but sometimes we find some bug or some missing feature. So how we can add it or fix it? The first thing that we need to do is really good research. And I always start my research with GitHub issues search. So I search issues, I search closed issues, I search pull requests, I check out what's happening there. I also check out code because maybe it's simple to fix. And if it's not fixed, then if I can't find the fix, I can also check the Stack Overflow, or I can check other similar projects. Let's say that I know that there's a library in Ember, but there's also a much bigger, more advanced library in React. So I want to compare how they solved, and I can quite easily migrate some change from React version to Ember or from Ember to React if I know both libraries. Since everything is written in JavaScript, there's not that much problem. Also, many things refer to generic stuff like how browsers handle stuff, so it's very often reusable. Next thing, when we want to fix this, so let's say that if we are lucky, we found a solution on some GitHub issue or Stack Overflow. If not, then we can start working on our own fix. So first step to work on our own fix is to fork the library and to make a branch locally. I often see people making a fork and just modifying master, which is a little bit hard to update later when the library changes. Or when, for example, we want to do something with it more. And also, there's a challenge that, okay, so we made a fork, we change it, so how do we install it now? Because we need to distribute it. So that's the next thing. When we have this modified version, we can always check it locally and install it by changing our npm package dependencies path to file and then local path to our folder where we make the fork. This way we can install and quickly test our solution locally on our machine. When the solution works and we want to share with it, to install it in production application, we need to distribute it. And there are, of course, let's assume that we can't wait for the author to merge the fix. So what we can do? We have two options. Option one is that we install the npm package directly from GitHub. So we make this fork, we make the branch, and we can point npm directly to this branch and install it in application. Another option is that we can publish this package under new name in npm, which is messy, but sometimes when a library is very popular and we intend to still maintain it, it's a good option. When we talk about including or making fixes for npm packages, it's also important to understand the whole process of how the package is built, published. So here's a really compact description of the key elements of building a package. So we have npm init command, which creates the package JSON file where we put key information like package name and the main file that should be exported. Of course, we have to write the main file code, but generally the generated files is all the minimal thing that we need to export it to the npm. It's very good to add README, which will be displayed in npm package repository. It's also very good to add repository, so that on the sidebar there is a link to GitHub, so that users can go from npm to GitHub very easily. And it's also really good to add some other options that are listed in this link here. It's also very nice to include, for example, scripts, because scripts is like a command. So there's some standards like npm test, npm start, commands that help development of the packages. It's all described in this documentation. And finally, when we want to publish something to npm, all we need to do is to change the version number and just type npm publish, and it publishes new version to npm. So quite easy. Here Wojtek asked me about some example. So this example how a package looks like from the user perspective. So someone found the library, and this is the site on the left side. This is the npm site. You can see that the README looks is a markdown code. It's exactly the same README that's shown on GitHub. So we have a reuse of the information. It's the same stuff. On the sidebar, there is link to GitHub repository, to GitHub issues. There is also information about downloads last day, last week, and last month. So users can very easily know how popular the library is, where they can find the source code. It's really good. The README usually includes some basic information like this build status on Travis, npm version, how to install the library, how to include it in the source code, and how to start development when you want to make a pull request with it. It's very also on the right side. Good packages have also a demo site, so that users can check out, okay, so how this library works. This is a quite minimal stuff, and this is all you need in most libraries. Yeah, and this library is actually quite popular. I got some pull requests to it, so it lives its own life, and it's quite fun to drive some npm packages. So I hope that you will try it too, and definitely I would like you to get more aware that you are empowered, or you have all the skills you need to actually fix stuff in the npm packages that you use, and I really encourage you to do so, and maybe make some npm packages. To sum up, so I presented you how I think you could approach the selection of npm packages, finding them, what you should take into account, the quality, the GitHub activity, and downloads, and also when you need to do some change on the package, how you can do it how to download the code, how to check it locally, and how to make a pull request. That's it for this topic. So if you have any questions, do you think this will encourage you to try it in future?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.